And a good day to everybody. And in today's video tutorial, it will be about the second board in chapter 5 of Grandmaster Ronghua Savage Horse Defense. And as in the earlier boards, I've chosen to put black at the bottom of the page. A short recap: in the first board in chapter 5, which dealt with black using the sandwich horse defense with the left elephant variation, red attacked with the 5-6 cannons, which is one of the more popular counters that red would use. In the second board, red would attack with the 5-7 cannons. And without further ado, let us see what the Grandmaster had prepared for us. Sandwich horse defense. Red chose to push the third pawn forward. Black retaliated. The edge horse, the left elephant variation for the sandwich horse defense, and the topic of discussion for this board, the 5-7 cannons. In comparison to the 5-6 cannons, the 5 cannons and 5-8 cannons, the 5-7 cannons would represent a more volatile and aggressive counter approach by red. There will be fireworks very soon. So after playing c8 equals to 7, black would usually counter with r1 equals to 2. This would negate any possibility of red developing his left chariot, or decrease the efficiency of the left chariot if it were to be developed as a foul chariot. So in this variation, red would develop both chariots as foul chariots, and this move would be a critical move for black to play. The left cannon blockade must be formed, and this would limit the movement of the red chariot. So at this point in time, it would not be a good idea to be defensive or passive by playing a6 plus 5, because if that were done, the red chariot would be given space to develop, and this would be very detrimental to black's position. Red would be prepared to play p7 plus 1 to trade pawns to attack the horse, and red will have a very proactive and aggressive formation. So that is why one of the key moves that black must make would be c2 plus 4 to advance his cannon across the river to the enemy's pawn rank, such that a blockade would be formed. And this position would be the topic of discussion for this entire board. Faced with black's c2 plus 4, three major variations would be discussed. The first one would be p7 plus 1. The second one would be r8 plus 1, whereby the red chariot will attempt to be developed as a rank chariot, and this will give the red chariot some options to develop later in the game. And the last and most complex variation of them all would be pushing the edge pawn forward. This would not be the complex variation that would be mentioned. So just a short recap: when faced with this situation, red will usually play p7 plus 1, r8 plus 1, or p9 plus 1. So in the first variation, p7 plus 1 was played. So if red did make this move, black would usually be forced to trade pawns, and red would push the other pawn forward again, sacrificing both pawns. And this will lead to a very complicated situation, which has been mentioned earlier in one of the boards, whereby red will sacrifice both pawns so that his chariot will play r2 plus 4, and although be compensated with initiative and tempo and space for development of his other pieces. And R9 R9 equals to it would be another one of the sub-variations at this point in time, whereby black would try to negate or decrease the effects of the red chariot patrolling the riverbank. Another option would be p7 plus 1. This would be a very complex variation, and we shall see later on. So if at this point R9 equals 8 were played, red will continue to capture the pawn and attack the black horse, whereby a trade of chariots would ensue and black would retreat his horse to safety. And red will continue with r8 plus 1, because it would be impossible to develop his chariot in this very cramped space. So black would attack the riverbank, and r2 plus 3, red will continue with h2 plus 3. So the results of red's pawn sacrifice early on would be that both players would have a pawn that had crossed the river, and this will be a rather early confrontation of the forces. And at this point in time, although the situation on the board is rather complicated, red will be the one having the slight advantage. So a short review. Once c8 plus 7 was played, black must push his cannon across the river, and in the first variation p7 plus 1 was discussed. So p7 plus 1, p3 plus 1, and red will sacrifice both pawns, and black will try to trade chariots, and in the end red will have a satisfactory position. So what would happen if, say, p7 plus 1 after were not played and r8 plus 1 were played immediately? So this was what the Grandmaster had published in his book. Black would fortify his defenses, and at this point in time it would be a very important move for black to offer a trade of cannons, because when the red chariot was at this position, if red would be placed in a dilemma. If red did not trade cannons, black would capture the central cannon, and only this elephant would be able to protect the central elephant, after which black could play r2 plus 7 for a fork. So red would lose a piece. So if the same thing would happen if red chose to trade cannons, red's main attacking engine would now be lost. So how would at this point, how would red usually play? Red would usually patrol the riverbank, waiting for black to capture the cannon, and in this way, if r2 plus 7 was played, red will only have to move his cannon, will only have to retreat his cannon to safety. So, and black would concentrate his attack on this flank here, p9 plus 1, h2 plus 3, and red will offer a trade of chariots. So red will accept, and at this point in time, black would be seen to have seized the initiative from red. So black would have the extra pawn, and red's cannon, 5-7 cannons, remaining cannon will now not be able to do much in this situation. So the third major variation that was discussed was p9 plus 1, as mentioned earlier. So if p9 plus 1 were played, this would not be an advisable move. Black would fortify his defenses, and red would do so too. And after trading, black could easily achieve a formation where he could have good prospects, and the development of the remaining red chariot will be a big headache for red in the ensuing game. So black could be deemed as having a slight advantage at this point. So that was why p7 plus 1 would be the most often played move by red at this point. And as mentioned earlier, after sacrificing 2 pawns, r9 plus 8 was not a very good idea. So what would happen if black chose to capture the pawn instead? The situation shown here would be a very complicated situation. So red would patrol the riverbank as planned, and black would make this move. c2 equals to 3 would allow black to offer to trade chariots, and red would not dare to capture the pawn with this chariot, or it will be a check and the red chariot will be lost. So one might wonder, would it be a good idea to play c3 equals to 2 at this point? Again, this will be another very complicated situation. So before we go into this subvariation, maybe we can go through this entire subvariation whereby c2 equals to 3 was played instead of p3 equals to 2. So after trading material, black would choose to deliver a check and gain an elephant. At this point in time, another possible but very complicated move option would be c5 plus 4 to deliver the check. So a6 plus 5 will be played, as the cannon was here, and black would not have to worry about a spotted cannon checkmate by red. So c7 plus 5 was given in the book, as red would give protection to his central cannon. This would be a good idea, because if e3 plus 5 to chase away the cannon were played, black could play h2 plus 3. So if red retreated his central cannon, the pawn would advance, and at this point in time it would be a rather even situation. So playing e3 plus 5, thinking that black would lose material, would be wishful thinking. So c5 traversing the cannon to the central file would be advised. So again, and black would still have a playable game in this situation. The moves ended here in the book, and red would have a slight advantage with the red would still have a slight advantage with the extra piece, but red would have lost an elephant, and it was very susceptible. The central cannon would now be susceptible to attack by the horse, so black would still have a playable game. So that is why, short review, attacking the central pawn will lead to a very complicated situation, and c7 equals to 6 is advocated for red at this point in time. So if black continued to advance his pawn at this stage in the game, red will have better development of his pieces. The black chariot will still not have moved, and but black will be compensated with an extra elephant and a threatening cannon on red's bottom rank. So that is why short review. p7 plus 1 can be considered, and as we mentioned earlier, after c2 plus 4, c2 equals to 3 was studied in this short variation. In the next variation, instead of c2 equals to 3, black would choose to protect his cannon in this manner. So how would red react? There were two options. One was p9 plus 1 and the other was h9 plus 7. If h9 plus 7 were played, and black would have an additional pawn that crossed the river for his efforts, so black would have the slight advantage in this situation. So h9 plus 7 would not seem to be a good idea. So what about p9 plus 1, whereby the horse would threaten to attack the pawn, and together with the chariot, the black cannon would have trouble moving. So black could protect his cannon in this manner, and red would choose to trade chariots in this situation like this. Would it be possible for for red to use the horse instead? Now this would not be a good idea, because after c6 equals to 7, the black cannon would would limit the movement or development of the red horse, and black will actually be better in this situation. So that is why using the horse would not be as good an idea as using the chariot. So after using the chariot, black would trade chariots. This would unlink the black cannons. Black could protect it in this manner, and after the exchange, red would be better, as the black chariot would not have been developed, and black's right flank would be empty. So at this point in time, p7 plus 1 would not be a good idea, because after r2 plus 4, c3 equals to 2 or c2 equals to 3 would both be to red's favor if played correctly. So back to the main line, r9 equals to 8 will be the correct or sound move to make in this situation. So, and a short revision of the main line, and red would have a slight advantage. Hence, it would seem that attacking with the 5-7 cannons could be a possible option for red. Short review. This was the position that was the topic of discussion for this board: the 5-7 cannons versus black's sandwich horse defense with left elephant variation. And c2 plus 4 is a move that must be made. This must be remembered, and if there was anything that must be remembered or taken away from this board, it should be this move. So there were three major variations: p7 plus 1, r8 plus 1, and p9 plus 1. And amongst the three, p9 plus 1 would perhaps be the most ill-advised move for red, because black could easily achieve a formation where he will have great prospects. And r8 plus 1 could be considered, because although black could have the slight advantage with the extra pawn, red will still be able to be threatening with his cannon and horse attacking black's right flank. And the best move for red in this situation would be p7 plus 1. And after p7 plus 1 were played, there were several after p7 plus 1 played, red will sacrifice another pawn so that his chariot could play r2 plus 4. And at this point in time, the sound move for black would be r9 equals to 8. p7 plus 1 to capture the black pawn would not be a good idea, as the following sub-variations that were shown just now will prove so. So in the main line, and red would have a slight advantage, but black will still have a playable game. So I hope you have enjoyed this board, and the variations are a little bit confusing, but after going through the video a few times, I'm sure that you will be able to master or appreciate what the Grandmaster had prepared for us. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you like my channel and the work that I have been doing thus far, please support my channel and give me a like. And I thank you very much, and hope you have a very great week ahead. Thank you.